Welcome back to Quintessence Virtual Retreat, Embrace Healing. I am so pleased to be joined here today with Andréa Michel. She is an intuitive life coach and spiritual leader and helps a lot of women to transform their lives. And I'm just so thankful that she can join us today in this discussion about how healing can really change and uplift our lives. And I'd love to start with just taking a couple breaths together and really anchoring and centering in this space. I'd like to just take a moment and invite all of our participants and listeners to just think about their own personal lives and setting an intention for our time together so that you're really able to extract the nuggets of wisdom from the talk and apply that to your own personal life. And I also want to just thank everyone for taking this time to really focus on your healing, because we know that when we do our own personal healing work, it has a ripple effect out into our families, into our community, and the entire planet. And so thank you for doing your part to uplift the earth consciousness. And with that, Andréa, would you share with us just a bit about your work and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Andréa Michel. I am an intuitive transformational coach and spiritual leader. And I have been doing this work mostly all my life, except that I didn't realize that I was like a coach before I officially became a coach.
Yes.
But I officially started doing it full time last year, June. I retired from the corporate world after spending 15 years of successfully climbing the corporate ladder as a corporate controller, which is an accountant. And I decided to retire because I realized that while I was in a position of leadership and prestige, and that lifestyle or that position provided me with a lot of material things, right? I wasn't pursuing my purpose and my passion. So I decided to retire to help women do the same thing. So now I actually help women heal while they're discovering their purpose and their passion. I help them connect with their identity so that they can, create more happiness, fall in love with themselves, and truly live an abundant life. I've been married for almost 13 years, and we have 2 children. Lauren is 11, Gavin is 9. And they are the most amazing children ever. This is not up for debate. That's it. Period.
Final word. Okay.
Yes. But I absolutely love helping. First of all, I love helping people, but my passion is towards women because I fundamentally believe that women are extremely powerful beings. And when we not only heal, but when we become whole, we change the world. We change everyone and everything around us. And so that's just a little bit about me. And of course, we'll talk more about the work that I do as we get into this interview.
Yeah, I think that is such an amazing opening point, that women are often the kind of the starting place for this global healing. And I think that I'm kind of thinking about some of this Maladoma Patrice Somé, some of her teachings around how some tribes in Africa, like, if the men are abusing one of the women stick together, and like none of the women make love with their husbands, right? Until this is resolved. And so it's interesting because there's a collective power between women.
Yep.
And the other thing I'm thinking about is, like, ultimately, we are the ones who choose our partners to reproduce with. Like ultimately and these new beings on earth are gestating within our energy field.
Yes.
Right. And so when we heal, it literally heals the energy of the future generations,
Yep.
and also, a woman's ovum can actually heal genetic mutations in a man's sperm. Like,
Wow.
that is some power, woman.
That is power.
We can actually heal their like defaults
Mm-hmm.
with our power. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, thank you for just bringing that front and center. This power that we hold. And we all know that with power comes responsibility, right? And so when we allow for things to happen that don't feel right to us, that is also, you know, a way of condoning this kind of behavior. And so just to take that power back and that responsibility back, and really take charge of our own healing. And I would love for you to just share with us a little bit about what you really see and what your understanding of what healing actually is. Like, what is healing?
Yeah. So to me, healing is a state of being content. Okay. And I don't think that healing is the ultimate state. As I kind of said before, I think
Yes.
wholeness is the ultimate state, but healing is the state that you get to when you realize that everything that will be is, and we live in this state of isness in the present moment, and not necessarily concerning ourselves with what has been or what has happened, but having a full understanding. And again, it goes beyond just the physical body, right? Because
Yes.
we have 4 bodies. We have a spiritual body, a mental body, an emotional body, and we have a physical body. And anytime one of those 4 bodies are blocked, right? If there's something in the way energetically, then we are not standing in a place of healing. But healing is when we have a full understanding of who we are, what our mission is, what our purpose is, and we strive towards that.
Yes. So it's like this journey kind of to wholeness. How do we embody our own unique wholeness, right? Because my wholeness is going to look different than your wholeness, right? And so, would you share with us maybe like a healing journey or a healing experience so we could really see what does that look like, this journey to wholeness?
Yeah. So I have actually just, I tell people all the time, the funny thing about, walking away from a successful career, because a lot of people walk away from their corporate jobs and they hate it and they're burnt out and all of that. That wasn't the case for me. Like, I was successful, and if I wanted to, my next step could have been CFO, but it just wasn't, it wasn't my passion. And so that's why I decided to retire. But with that being said, because I was so good in the corporate world and being promoted and climbing the ladder, I thought, if I can do it as a Black woman in a white man's world, living in the state of Wisconsin, where the numbers are terrible for Black people, if I can successfully climb the corporate ladder, then entrepreneurship is a breeze, right? And so I thought that, oh my gosh, I'm going to come out and everybody's going to want what I want. Of course, it didn't happen like that. But what I tell people, because they always ask the question, Andrea, what's the most surprising aspect of being a full-time entrepreneur post-corporate? And I say, the work that I've been able to do on myself. And so in the last year, I have gone through an amazing journey of healing to wholeness. And one example of healing is I recently healed myself from actually 2 things: anxiety and compulsive eating. So I'll start with anxiety. Because I'm not an anxious person by nature. Some people are they call worry warts, and they worry about everything, and they're always anxious and all of that. Well, that's not me. But a few months ago, I noticed that I was extremely anxious. Like I had this feeling just like in my chest and I couldn't breathe. And even when I tried to take like a deep breath during meditation, I could never just like fill my lungs up. And at first I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because I didn't know what it was. I was like, is this the start of COVID-19? Because I had never experienced anxiety. So I didn't know what it was. And so I sat for a minute and I said, okay, what's going on here? And finally I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is anxiety. And so when I realized that for 2 weeks straight, I tried to meditate it away. I tried to positive vibe it away. I tried to sage it away. I tried to it away, and it wouldn't go away. And it wasn't until I stepped into the shadow of the anxiety and I said to the anxiety, thank you for being here. You are here for a reason. There is information that you want to share with me. I am here and I am listening. What do you want me to know? And it wasn't until I actually sat with that anxiety and took in the message that it was sending me to just simply release everything. Maggie, the minute I did that, guess what? The anxiety went away.
It transformed, right? It's like a death, right?
Yes.
And so it transformed, and the message of that anxiety, maybe even was to just invite it in.
Yep.
Maybe it was just an aspect of yourself that, I can just perceive that's so, to go from the structure of the corporate world to the complete lack structure of being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Is like all of a sudden you have to task yourself and you have to do the task.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I find with being an entrepreneur, so much of it is like, you have to go questing for what is my next step, and then you have to figure out how to do it. And it's a lot of holding space for yourself and for your own business in a way that a lot of people you can't, that's the thing, you can't understand it until you're in it.
Exactly.
The level of how much you have to show up for yourself and for your business every day. And so, I can definitely see that, and how anxiety, when we invite in these energies that are uncomfortable for us and we befriend them, then, like you're saying, we can really get the wisdom and we can get the information, like you're saying, from these emotions, instead of just trying to move through them. Like just trying to say, this is uncomfortable, I want it to stop.
Right. Well, and for a minute, I almost went there. I was like, I'm going to have to go see a therapist. I'm going to have to do this. And it was just kind of like, and I had to say, wait a minute, Andrea, you are the creator of your own reality. You have everything that you need inside of you to really to heal yourself. So what are you going to do about it? Like I said, at first I was like, I think there's some medication you can have, and it was like, it's like, it's like
easy, one step at a time,
Yeah. Like chill. It's all good. And we have to be willing to go into the shadow, which is what shadow work is. We have to be willing to go into the shadow to uncover the shadow, right? We have to go within it to understand and know that the shadow self is not the bad self. The shadow self is not the enemy of the higher self. The shadow self is a part of who you are, because if you didn't understand how to be selfish, right, then how do you know how to care for yourself? If there wasn't, because in self-care, and a lot of people don't want to admit this, but in self-care, there's a level of selfishness, which it's not bad. Everybody needs to hold their own space or have space for themselves, whether you're a mom,
Mhm.
whether you're a dad, it doesn't matter. We need to hold some space, but we have this tendency to look at the like selfishness, to use that as an example, because everyone knows what it is, as if it's a bad thing. And that selfishness is a part of the shadow self, but you have to be selfish when it comes to yourself sometimes, and your time and how you spend it and your energy and where you direct it.
Right? Because without selfishness, we can have no authentic boundaries.
Exactly.
So it's like you have to come from a place of selfishness. And then from that place, you can figure out how to interact with the environment. But if you don't start there first, you have no self to bring to the table. You're just a reflection.
Yep.
Right? You become everyone else's projection. You become everyone else's, really, you become everyone else's shadow if you don't do your own shadow work.
Exactly.
Because you don't know who you are to say, you know what, this is someone's perception of me, but that's not my reality. So I'm going to play with that. I'm going to play with how I'm being perceived versus how I need to set boundaries, for myself. Because, and that's leading me to self-worth, right? Like without selfishness, you don't have self-worth. And so you need to have this. And I think this is going back to this idea of women really need to claim this responsibility to do their healing work, not in a bad way, but in a way of like, you deserve it. You deserve this time to heal yourself every day. And I think ultimately, in this series of seminars, we started with forgiveness, because I really think without forgiveness, you can't heal. And then with healing, and these are practices that you need to check in with like every day. And we're in such a fast-paced society. We're in such a drive through the Starbucks, go to the next thing, and get your pictures to post on social media or whatever it is. And you have to allow yourself some time. Like for me, I try and think about my day, and I can't say every day there's time, but pretty much every day I have some time where it's just for me. And maybe that's 30 minutes. That's kind of my minimum, is about 20-30 minutes, because I need that much time to drop in. Right. And really see what I need to excavate to like heal and work through. But it's just like washing your face or brushing your teeth. It's like checking in, seeing what needs to be resolved within, so that I can fully show up in my life for myself, for my family, for the world in the way that I want to.
Yeah, because you can't pour from an empty cup. If your cup is full, I often tell a lot of my clients, because I have clients, a lot of my clients are moms. Actually, I don't think I have any clients who aren't moms. But anyway, but I tell them all the time, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. I don't care how much, if your child asks you for $5 and you don't have $5 to your name, you cannot give your child $5 because you don't have it to give. Well, it's the exact same way when it comes to love, when it comes to joy, when it comes to peace, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to wisdom. If you don't first embody these things, yourself, if you don't first love yourself, you can't give love. You know what I mean? If you don't know what it's like to be at peace with yourself, then you can't provide a peaceful environment for your children. You cannot give what you don't have. I don't care how many books you read, or how many podcasts you listen to, or how many blog posts the experts have written and you've read. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot give what you don't have.
Yes. And so in this journey, could you share with us, maybe, I know you've already touched on this, but were there any other practices that really helped you cultivate this healing? I know you mentioned meditation is a cornerstone for you, and that's something we keep coming back to in this retreat is meditation and this awareness, just bringing awareness to ourselves and our experience. Are there any other, I know from following you, you're an avid runner, which I love. So I know physical movement for me as well is a huge source of healing, mental, and it heals all my bodies,
Yes.
you know? So are there any things you'd like to add to that kind of, toolkit?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So obviously like meditation is huge. Exercise is also huge for me. And not just like running, because I do that. I'm a 3-time marathon veteran, in case anyone's
Woo! That's amazing.
Thank
Woohoo!
you. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And I'm currently on this, my birthday is October 18th and I'll be 41. So on July 18th, which is exactly 3 months before my birthday, I decided to go on this 5K a day challenge or celebration, which means that I'm going to run a 5K every day from July 18th through October 18th. And the reason why I decided to do that is because when I was running and training for marathons before, I was using exercise as a form of punishment to my body for making the food choices that I was making because I was a compulsive eater, right? And so I stopped running for about 1.5 years because this realization hit me like, whoa, Andrea, you are punishing your body. You're doing damage to it. And you know what? I'm not alone in this. There are a lot of women who exercise religiously. And part of the reason why they do that is because it's a form of punishment for the choices that they make, right? And so while exercise is absolutely amazing, if your intentions and your motives are not clear and are not pure, then exercise can also be detrimental to your health. So again, there's meditation, there's exercise, there's running, but then I also practice yoga, and I walk a lot too. I don't just run. I do strength training. So the full gamut of exercise, not just the high impact, but equally important is the low impact. And another tool that people should have is actually inner child work. There's 2 of them. Inner child work, which is actually becoming or going back to those points in your childhood where there was some trauma or where there's some sort of negative emotion or where there's some sort of healing that needs to take place. So inner child work. Also, another thing that people can do is, we've talked about this, is the actual shadow work. Like that is a part of healing. I know you kind of mentioned earlier that, we live in this fast-paced society. People want it easy. Everybody has a microwave. Well, we haven't had a microwave in like 5 years, but anyway,
Us too.
but people want it, they want it fast, they want it quick, they want it easy. But if you are not willing to deal with your past, then you can't move forward. You cannot heal. And you mentioned the idea about forgiveness, like, you can't really heal if you don't forgive. Well, the whole idea of forgiveness is basically going back and releasing all of that, right? So you have to think about the past stuff, the things that happened to you in the past, and it's releasing it. And it's not for them. It's not for the person who victimized you or the perpetrator. You release it for yourself, right? To facilitate your own healing. So, shadow work and inner child healing is also important. Another thing that I do is I have a limitless possibility affirmation deck. I'm a big believer in affirming yourself. Every morning as a part of my morning ritual, I pull an affirmation card from my own affirmation card deck. Now, of course, there's lots of them out there. You don't have to, have my deck. And before,
but yours is the best, pretty much.
It is. Yes. And what I like about my deck is that even guys purchase my deck, and some of my clients, they purchase it for their children, for their sons. And I had one client that said to me, her son texted her and said, "Mom, I did not think I would enjoy pulling a card every day, but it's a highlight of my day." My brother, yes, My brother, who, if you see him, is like big time stud and just like, you just think he like just all around man's man. He literally pulls a card every day. And I have a card in the deck that says, I am a goddess. So he took a picture of it today and he texted to me. He was like, this is my card. I was like, your God consciousness. That's what that your God consciousness. He was like, okay, got it. And I explained to him the feminine and masculine energy. And he was like, oh, that makes sense. But I'm a big believer in affirming yourself.
Yes.
If you don't affirm yourself, then nobody else will. They just won't.
That's the thing, right? And we will try to do anything to get this affirmation. And what I love about pulling cards is that it gives you one thing to really focus on.
Yes.
Like I have a deck by where I get dressed or ready or whatever. And like, sometimes I'm like, I just need a focus. Yes. I need a focus, like a spiritual focus.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay. And then everything kind of can align around that, And one of the things I wanted to touch on is this idea of inner child work, because I think it's so important. And I actually have a line of body sprays. This is not a plug. And one of them is inner child, because I think that so often our inner child gets triggered. Our inner child needs attention. And I love this idea of like going back to these places where our inner child felt oppressed, basically, or scared, or did not have the resources to fully process the experience in the moment. And so now we as adults need to go back and assist our inner child in processing, in releasing those places that at the time we didn't have the support we needed.
Yep.
The other amazing gift that I've had from inner child work is that I realized what my passions were as a child that often were not cultivated, were not supported as well. And so one of them was like dance, was ballet. And so at 30, I had moved to Hawaii and I found this amazing dance studio where I just became my home. And I actually started doing belly dance, and belly dance led to ballet class because some of my friends were doing this. They had like a performance group, and I got so into ballet and I was so good at it that I was doing like 8 hours of ballet a week with like this woman who's like a New York international ballerina.
Wow.
And I loved it so much. It became my yoga for a while, honestly.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because often with the traumas, we lock parts of ourselves up in the past.
Yeah.
And when we have the courage to unlock that, we often remember, like, you know what? I mean, another thing, there's so many things, but I loved ceramics as a child. So I started doing ceramics. I started horseback riding because I love horseback riding. And so you think as adults sometimes like, oh, I don't need to do ballet. You know what I mean? Because like what? I'm going to go like do a performance, like for what? Right? But then you think like that's not the point. The point is it's enlivening. It's part of who I am.
Yep.
And so I just want to bring that up, that often when we do this inner child work, we also get back our passions and our hobbies and these things that make us who we are, make us unique. And so, with that, I'm curious, like, what do you think is the most profound gift that this, kind of healing journey has given you?
The most profound gift, honestly, has been the revelation that everything is one, that we are one with source.
Yes.
And we are source, right? Because if we are a part of source, then that by default makes us source. And so when you understand from that perspective, you realize that, oh my gosh, everything, if source is sufficient all by itself, and I am a part of source, then that means that I am sufficient all by myself. And if I understand that if I am source and everyone around me is source, and then it changes your perspective and you start to treat everyone. And this is when the golden rule really becomes effective, and it's used the way that it should be, when you can treat people how you want to be treated. Because the problem today is that people don't even know how to treat themselves. And so when you say treat others how you want to be treated, well, if I don't love myself, if I don't love myself, and if I think I'm unworthy, then I'm going to treat someone else in a non-loving way. And I'm going to treat them in a way that makes them feel unworthy. And that's why hurt people hurt people. But, I've always said, not always, but this revelation came to me. If we believe that hurt people, then we also have to believe that healed people heal people. And when you speak from a place of wholeness, right, which is healed, magnified, then you only want to see other people around you healed. And so again, the greatest revelation that I received being on this journey to wholeness is that we are one. And it doesn't mean you turn a blind eye to things when there's injustice. You speak up, you say something, right? Like that's a part of it, because source is this justice source, right? Everything is all good. But when you have it in your heart that, you know what, I am one with this 80-year-old woman, right? And so for example, so I go out running, and there's an old community or a condominium for like older people. And so they're out walking around the time when I'm out running. And when I first started going out there, I would just run like in my zone, not even necessarily thinking about everything. And then one day I passed this old lady, and I looked at her and I saw her as me. And again, with COVID-19 happening, I ran on the sidewalk, because I was like, if I were her, right, 80 years old, and I'm out walking, I wouldn't want someone who's younger than me to possibly infect me with COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
So I went and I ran on the sidewalk. And from that moment on, not the sidewalk, but the road, even though there are cars coming at me, I'm willing to put myself in that harm's way to protect her. But that's because this idea that I looked at her and I saw myself, and she's like an 80-year-old white woman, and here I am, a 40-year-old Black woman, right? But I saw myself, I saw us as one. And so now, every time I'm out there and I see anyone, whether they're old or young, I always go into the road, because I'm like, I would want that respect paid to me.
So, okay, I have a similar story that is a take on your story. So when I lived in Hawaii, like I mentioned, I used to have these they're called kangu jumps, and they're these boots that you wear, and they absorb the impact, so I could jog, because I'm a very large boned person. And you get like twice the workout. It's like crazy, right? So I would do this on the side of the road. And I would get up early because it's hot there, right? And so I used to do like 6 miles, but it would take me like an hour and a half, because you got these big boots on them. And so I'd be like listening to my music, and I'm like jamming out on the road, and it's funny because Kona is a very kind of small town in Hawaii. I mean, it's like small, medium town,
I visited there.
Yeah, okay. And so then I would be like wherever at the gas station or like wherever. And seriously, people would come up to me and they would be like, you are my favorite thing every morning when I'm driving to work. Like I see you and I'm like so happy because you're just like out there jamming, doing your thing. And like at first, because I'm a little bit shy of a person, I would be like kind of like, oh, But then after a while, I was like, that's so cool because I'm out there and my joy is literally contagious.
Yes.
Like, and so we sometimes don't realize how much just that smile to a person, all of that it has this amazing effect,
Yep.
you know, because the vibration that we put out into the world, it really is a ripple. It really does. And if we're angry, and sometimes you need to be angry. I'm not
Oh
saying
gosh,
anger is a
yes.
bad thing, right? And
Yes.
sometimes but it's appropriate anger. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's appropriate, and it needs to be, you know, in my opinion, you know, you start off small, and you know, sometimes you got to get big, you know,
I
and
say
that's
there's two
okay.
kinds. I say that there's two types of anger. There's the judgmental anger, and then there's the compassionate anger. You know,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
should do everything that we can to, when we realize, to be angry is, there's nothing wrong with that, because that anger is carrying information. But to have compassionate anger as opposed to judgmental anger, because when the
Yes.
anger is judgmental, then we want revenge, then we want vengeance, then we want
Mhm.
to kill, then we want to hurt, then we want to destroy. But when it's compassionate, we just simply want to see justice served, right? If you murder
Yeah.
someone, then there should be some consequence to that murder. Then perhaps,
Yes.
you know, in the US, we put them in jail for life, right? Like,
Yeah.
or death
Yeah.
penalty, whatever the consequence is deemed, you know, based on that society. But it's not from a judgmental standpoint where we say, oh, you murdered someone, now you need to rot in hell, you dirty, rotten scoundrel. And, you know, all
Yeah.
of that. It's just a different way to look at it.
Well, and it's protecting, right?
Yeah.
It's protecting other people, and ultimately it's protecting themselves from having to endure, you know, threatening another person again,
Yep.
you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And so, you know, just kind of in wrapping up this beautiful discussion, I'm wondering if you could just share with us, like, what do you think the most like profound gift that healing can really, you know, give to our lives, and really to move us forward, you know, because you were talking about, like, I know we kind of spoke about this before, but like how this healing to wholeness, and then that brings in your life purpose, right? And this idea that from this healed place, then we're actually, or healed, or, you know, whole place, then we're actually able to make a contribution to society, maybe that is more spirit led. And so I'd love if you could just speak on that for a minute, because I think that sometimes it's like, yeah, okay, do my healing work, but like, what am I going to get out of it? Like, why should I do that versus like whatever else, watch Netflix or go to the bar, or not that we can go to the bar, or not that I
Right.
would, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
what, so yeah, could you speak about that relationship between, you know, becoming more whole, and really activating your life purpose?
Yeah. So, the, you know, as you were talking, the phrase authentic empowerment is what dropped in my spirit, because what it means to be authentically empowered, it means to be able to stand in your own power all by yourself when no one is watching, or if a million people are watching, right? And it's being
Yes.
100% true to who you are. It's being
Yes.
able to say, no, I don't like turnips, when everyone around you is eating turnips and telling you how good they are.
Yeah.
It's being able to say, you know what? Thank you. I'm glad you like them. I don't like them, right?
Yeah.
So it's standing, being able to stand when you are on this journey from, you know, on the journey of self-discovery to healing, and then ultimately wholeness. You stand in your own power. And at the end of the day, when you lay your head down on your pillow to sleep at night, and then when you take your final breath, then you will be able to say, job well done.
Yeah.
That's the greatest gift.
Yeah, because you showed up.
Yes.
right? You showed up for your own life. You showed
Yep.
up for yourself.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Andrea. This has just been like so grounding and like clear. And I just love your authenticity of just sharing your own personal, intimate journey with healing. And I would love to just, again, take a couple breaths together to just really anchor this information into our being and send it out as a prayer.
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay. And may all beings everywhere be happy and free. And may our thoughts, words, and actions contribute to the happiness and freedom of all beings everywhere. And, and thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you for this time together.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say that the love in me salutes the love in you.
Thank you.